I'm proud of the man that I've become. At the beginning, it was this kid chasing his dream, trying to do the big thing. And then when all that goes away and you have no identity, what are you? What's your purpose?
Wow.
Why am I here? It got so dark for me, and I don't want to go here, but I'm going here. This early in the interview. This is going to be a good interview.
I won't waste another minute. No, I won't. I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I don't need no permission. I'm a man on a mission.
Welcome to Entitled to Nothing, where we believe our life is our fault. My name is Mink, and I started this show because I've spent the last 20 years running headfirst into failure after failure, and I've learned how to turn my failures into lessons, and I've used those lessons to create life on my terms. I went from broke and bankrupt with 6 figures in debt to starting multiple companies that have generated over 50 million in sales. And I want to share everything I've learned on my journey to help inspire you on yours. I'm really excited about this week's episode because I'm going to sit down with a good friend of mine, Dave Scatchard, who is a former pro hockey player. He was in the NHL for 14 years and really has an incredible story of growing up in a small coal miners town in nowhere, Canada. And he found his way to the NHL, becoming a top player in the league, leading his team in goals at one point, and then ultimately suffering from multiple concussions that left him with blurred speech, loss of memory. He got to the point where he almost thought about taking his life because his concussions had been so bad that he couldn't function. And ultimately, doctors told him he was going to be disabled forever. And being the fighter that he is, he didn't take no for an answer, and he fought back for himself, for his family, his wife, and his kids, and ultimately has figured out how to heal himself. He spent over 7 figures on medical treatments and alternative therapies to heal his brain and come back from the brink. And in this episode, we talk about life, we talk about pro hockey, overcoming adversity, and ultimately how to be an all-star in every area of our life. So this episode, I think you guys are going to really love it. We cover a lot of ground, and Dave, right out of the gate, you can get a sense that Dave is a man that just has a big heart as he gets right into it and gets emotional in the beginning. I love this conversation, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. Hope you enjoy. I'm super excited to welcome to the show my good friend, Dave Scatchard. Dave, thanks for being here, brother.
Hey, man, it's my honor.
I feel like I've known you for almost a decade now. We met at Tony Robbins in 2014.
Yeah.
But reading your book, I got to know a part of you that I didn't know. And it was such a beautiful experience for me. I wrote some stuff down as I was going through it. You grew up in a small coal town. Yeah. Your dad was a coal miner.
Yeah.
You left home at 16 to go play semi-pro hockey.
Junior, yeah, which is like, you're going for it at that point.
Yeah. 14 years in the pros, team captain, leading scorer on the team. Then you were cut from multiple teams. You played for the New York Islanders during 9/11, kind of the height of your career in a lot of ways. You were crushing it for the Islanders. Yeah. You and your team went down to ground zero a few days after it happened to try to give moral support, right? You've had the ability to be in the spotlight, be on the ice in front of millions of people, but then you've been cut from multiple teams, multiple MCL surgeries, tears, 5 concussions. And what was crazy to me is the 5th concussion knocked you out for 12 minutes, where you had a near-death experience. You came back, lost memory, crazy headaches, all sorts of issues, and you were really struggling to figure out what you were going to do next. Yeah. And then what you ended up doing was turning that journey into a mission to serve and support others.
Yeah.
It's really powerful, bro.
It's the biggest blessing in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't always feel that way.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who is David Scatchard? Like, when you think about your life and the journey and all you've done, like, when did it start?
I'm going to get emotional because I'm proud I'm proud of the man that I've become. At the beginning, it was this kid chasing his dream, trying to do the big thing. And then when all that goes away and you have no identity, what are you? What's your purpose?
Wow.
Why am I here? It got so dark for me, and I don't want to go here, but I'm going here. This early in the interview, this is going to be a good interview. It had gotten so dark for me that I couldn't hold my children, couldn't take care of them. I couldn't be in the sun. I couldn't push my kid on a swing set. I couldn't drive long distances. I couldn't listen to anything loud. Everything was just jarring to me, and I was literally like hiding at a movie theater at my house, and I would just go in the dark and just sit there like all day and be like, why am I here? Like, I'm a burden to my wife. I'm a burden to my kids. I can't work. I can't function. I can't read. I had 5 properties in 3 countries, multi-million-dollar properties. I used to be amazing at real estate, and I couldn't even read a real estate contract. And I'm sitting there and I'm like I can't. The Mayo Clinic I'd done work with them for 3 years, and at one point they said, sorry, buddy, like, we've done all our protocols. You're just permanently disabled. And I'm like, what do you mean? You guys are the best doctors in the world.
Wow.
If you can't fix me, who's going to fix me?
Yeah.
And the doctor was like almost in tears. He's like, I'm sorry, like, this is just how it's going to be. And at the time, I had no memory. Like, I had no short-term memory. I would drive down the road like a man with dementia, and I'd have to call my wife and be like, where am I going? Like, what am I supposed to do? And she's like, you're going to the grocery store. It's like, go up to the grocery store. And I'm like, why am I here? Eggs, bananas, and milk. Okay, good. And I'd literally walk around the grocery store going like, eggs, 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 eggs. I'd find the eggs, and I couldn't remember the other things. And this is like, I'm 36 years old. And it got to the point where I'm like, how am I going to live another 60 years like this? Because this isn't flying. And I started thinking about like checking out. And I love life. So for me to talk about it, I get really emotional because it's been tough. But on the flip side, and we'll get into the whole story about how it happened, but I've I've flipped it now, where it's not about me. None of this from now on. This is a free roll of life. So none of this stuff is for me. It's not. My mission is to be a vessel and to let things flow through me and to support people no matter where they're at, because the people that come to me, and this is what I understand now, is I thought God was like punishing me for something. I'm like, why are you punishing me? Like, I'm a good person. And when I finally got on my healing journey, the message that came through to me was, I'm not punishing you. I'm teaching you. I'm training you for the people that are going to start to come your way. I wouldn't know what hopelessness felt like unless I lived there. I wouldn't know what desperation or fear or anxiety or stress, like I never had any of those things. I always had a really clear journey to the NHL, so I'm very blessed that way. But now, when one of my clients comes and they're going through something, I'm like, hey, bro, I get it. I've been there. I've been right where you're at.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the things that I did to get out. Do you want to try it? And it's like, oh, they finally feel like somebody gets them. You know what I mean? And same thing with you. Like, I know the fact that you've had struggles and, you know, you've had to rebuild and you've had to like restart and do things like that. But now you're sharing it and now you're teaching it. I believe for all of us out there, if you've had things happen to you that are struggles or that you've been through, I don't think those are like a secret for you to keep to yourself. I think that we're all teachers for each other. Yes. So that's why I love these mastermind groups. That's why I love coaching. That's why I love all these things, is because it creates a community where a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a family, where people can understand each other and take them right where they're at with no judgment. Like, imagine if our world was like that, where we could literally just live and have no judgment and no fear of like telling the truth.
Yeah. And vulnerability.
And vulnerability. People, this is the craziest thing is like, I thought when I wrote the book and told the near-death story, everyone was going to think I'm crazy. And like, I didn't want people to know how bad it got. And then I thought about killing myself and all this stuff. And it's been the complete opposite. I can't believe how many people have come out of the woodwork and be like, bro, I can't believe you said that. But like, I've been through the exact same thing and I never told anybody.
Yeah.
And now like we have like this common thing. And I don't want to say I got to go live there and stay there. That's not the thing, okay? We all had stuff happen to us, but if we stay there, that's where we punish ourselves.
Yeah.
There is access to light. There is access to humans who know more than you and other experiences and things that you haven't even seen yet. So go find them, go chase it, go hunt it down. And it's in the future. It's not in the past. Like for me, all my energy is in the future. What I'm about to create, who I'm going to meet, what connection I'm going to do, what podcast, how big is this impact going to be, this conversation that we're having. So some people get stuck there and they unpack their bags. They go down into the pit. We all go into the pit. But if you don't unpack your bags there and set up shop and make that your home, which I did for 3 years on my struggles, I just got real and honest and said, man, I don't know what's going on, but like this is terrifying. But I will do whatever it takes to get out of this thing. I will wake up early. I will become a vegetarian or a vegan. I'll stop drinking. I'll do whatever I can to shift, because what I'm doing now doesn't give me the energy to heal.
Yes.
The shield and the armor and the masks that I have put up are not allowing God's blessings to heal me or to affect me, because I'm so like locked up. You know what I mean? I'm trying to still be tough. And it wasn't until I removed all that and got super real and honest and be like, okay, this is terrifying, because I've had my armor on for my whole career. When guys are trying to fight me, to take my job, I got to leave home. The first time I got a spanking from my dad, the first time I got my heart broke from a girl, the first time I got cheated on, the first time I got, bad stuff happened to me. It makes you layer up where you're like, oh, that hurt way too much. And if you're an extremely sensitive person like I am, I'm super empathic and I feel a lot of things. I thought if I covered up this little sensitive soul, little David in here, that we could go do the things we had to do. And some of it served me and some of it held me back from healing later on, which I had to kind of pick the armor that I was using, if that makes sense.
I mean, first off, thank you for just being so vulnerable and open and just diving right into it. I think what you explained is like what my life philosophy is. My life is my fault. We're going to get in a pit. Like, hopefully it's not as deep or as dark as it could be, right? Hopefully we don't have to go to the level that potentially you were at mentally, emotionally, and physically. But when you get in that pit, we're always going to have one in our lives. Yeah. And you can stay there and you can be a victim of that circumstance, or you can find a way to be the creator or the reinventor of it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I believe it doesn't matter what our situation is, how dire the odds or the straits are. Yeah. If you can say, this is happening for me, this is my fault, how can I grow from this, grow through this, and become better in spite of it? I think ultimately on the other side of it, we're a more complete human. One of my favorite authors is Michael Singer. And in his book, The Surrender Experiment, he talks about this and he says, every experience in life is making us a greater version of ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're a more complete human because of that. Mm-hmm. And then to your point, because we've went through that, we now have the capacity to serve at a higher level, because you can connect with people that have had that level of hopelessness, that level of pain, that level of suffering.
I think it breaks down the barrier instantly and it creates relatability. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I know we've done stuff with Tony together before, and I remember he drew this expansion drawing, and it was a circle. And until you go through this hard thing over here, your limit is only here. But now once you make it out, your circle gets bigger. Your capacity gets bigger.
Yes.
And then you've got something weird that happens over here, and it's a financial thing, and you got to figure that out. Oh, now you can handle this. Now it's a relationship thing. Oh, now you can handle this. And before you know it, each experience builds your capacity level where you go through stuff and you're like, yeah, I've been through this before. Not a big deal. I'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if you stop feeling like you're the victim and go, what am I supposed to learn here? Like literally just like sit in the quiet. And this is another thing too. I used to be able to really, I did massive meditation work and stuff when I got back from India, and I was really connecting, and I was asking God, like, how do I stay in this healing space? And the message back to me was that I needed to create that space for it to happen. It's not going to happen when my kids are all running around. It's not going to happen when my wife's asking for something. It's not going to happen when I'm driving, when I'm flicking on my phone. I need to build that space. And for me, that was 4 o'clock in the morning. I go to my movie theater and I start to do my work. and I would pray. I'd be grateful. I'd go through the whole routine, everything it was, and then I would be open to like receiving messages. And this is where it starts to get really trippy because everything that I've seen has happened, right? But if you can see it, then you can believe it, and then you can achieve it. Wow, that was pretty good, actually. I must have read that somewhere at some point. or maybe it's amazing. But, it takes the guesswork out if you put a target out there and you clarify that that's where I'm headed. And I teach this, in my coaching programs. If you don't have a target out there, if you're not super clear, I had a girl yesterday reach out to me about coaching. And I said, well, what would you like to see out of coaching to work together for a year? And she goes, well, I'm not really sure. I said, okay, listen. And I sent her a few things. I go, fill this out, think about it, and then come back to me because I don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste my time. And what happens is people go and they want to do something, but they're not quite sure what, and they haven't like dialed it in. So it's like going to play golf. And you don't know if you're hitting a 7-iron. You don't know if it's a par 5. You don't know if there's water in front. You don't know what hole you're playing because you don't see the flag. You haven't put a flag out there for anything.
Yeah.
I think when people claim something, this is where I'm going, they might get diverted. It might not work out exactly like the way that but at least they're heading in the right direction. Does this make sense?
100%.
You visualize this.
Yeah.
You and people that work here have a target that you're trying to hit in a service level that you want to reach. And you know that if you do those things, good things are going to happen.
Yeah.
So then it's really up to you, right? You're entitled to nothing. So if you go play Candy Crush all day long, the odds of you achieving those goals are nothing. But if you create a plan and to start taking action consistently with discipline and focus, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. I saw Keith Cunningham. And he was talking, and he said, if I asked an entrepreneur to crumple up, like step on a soda can, an empty one, and throw it 5 miles down the road, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember? I use this all the time. And it's like, nobody can throw it 5 miles. But if I ask you to drop it on the ground and just kick it down the street and just kick it for 5 miles, your job is just kick that can for 5 miles. Eventually, you'll get there.
Yeah.
So I tell my clients, I'm like, kick the can. Just keep kicking the can,
good. Yeah.
right? And it's so simple.
Yeah.
But people on like McDonald's, they want Amazon Prime, they want instant gratification.
Yes.
Where, sorry, but great things don't just like happen like that. There's amazing miracles and things that can happen, but I think on a consistent level to continue to grow and scale, it's that step by step by step.
Yeah, I love it. It's such a beautiful analogy, and I love his quote, ordinary things practiced consistently create extraordinary results. Like what's more ordinary than kicking the can for 5 miles, but eventually you can say, hey, I made it 5 miles.
Yeah.
I think, you know this process very well because you went from a small town coal miner's son to, the brightest lights as a professional athlete. When you were first getting started, when did you say, how old were you when you said, I'm going to play in the NHL? And
3 years old.
You were 3 years old.
I was in preschool and they were doing the thing like, what do you want to be? And I drew like a little hockey player. And then at 4 and 5 and 6, I would tell what team and like all these things. It was wild. And then when I was like 6 or 7, I had this conversation with my dad and I said, Dad, I want to play in the NHL. My dad is so cool. Like he's my idol and my hero and the most positive human being and kind of a crazy guy himself, adrenaline junkie and barefoot water skied and did all this crazy, he was one of the first hang gliders in Canada. He had one of the first hang gliding licenses where those things were like a metal death trap and he'd run and jump off these mountains. And I'm a little boy watching my dad like fly like Superman. Like, how can you not idolize somebody like that? And he was fearless. So he sort of taught me that anything is possible. So when I told him I want to play in the NHL, he was so cool. He goes, okay. He said, what do you think you're going to have to do to get in the NHL? And I said, well, I'm going to have to like practice a lot. And he goes, okay, but like what specifically? Like what's the difference between an NHL player and you? And I said, oh, geez, they're bigger, they're stronger, they skate faster, they stick handle better, they shoot the puck better. Like I have so much to learn. And he goes, okay, so what's one thing right now you could do every day? And if you did this one thing every day, it would move you closer to achieving your goal.
Your dad said this to you at like 7 years old.
Yeah. And he was a Tony Robbins. Listen, I'd be in India, the monk in India is telling me the same thing my dad taught me growing up. Tony would say something, and I'm like, my dad grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan and Alberta. He was a farm boy, but he was like way ahead of his time with his thought process. You know what I mean? He is truly remarkable. I'm so blessed, and it's part of the reason why I do what I do now. I want to keep for his memory. But he said, "What's one thing you can do now?" And I said, I could shoot pucks. At least my shot will be good. He goes, "Okay, like how many pucks?" I'm like, "I don't know, 100 a day." He goes, "100 a day, done." But he goes, "If you're going to do that, you got to do it." So, okay. And he goes like, rain, snow, cold, hot, you're going to do this. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." So as a little boy, I had a milk crate, and I would go around after practice, after the big boys practice, and they shoot them off the crossbars, and they go over them, and I would just collect them. I never went and bought 100 pucks, like we didn't have much money. So I would just collect them. I'd steal them, my pockets would be stuffed, and I'd go home, and eventually I had over 100. I have like 150. And then he asked the people at the rink if we could have one of the old nets, and they just gave it to him. So we take the net out, and it's in my backyard, and my shot was terrible at the beginning, and it was just, and I started getting harder and harder and harder, and then I would shoot 100 a day. I'd come in, and I'd just like be proud. Sometimes it'd be multiple hundreds. As I got older, it'd be like, all right, 25 off the bottom left post, 25 off the top rope. And I had one of the most, when it comes down to it, I had one of the most accurate shots in the NHL during my whole career, and it probably made me millions more dollars and helped me stay in the league when maybe I wasn't skating as well as I got injured and older and things like that. But you know, for everybody listening, like, what's your 100 pucks a day? What that means to you is like, what are the things that you can do every day that are just going to gently progress you? And it's not like you're killing yourself. I was watching this thing about Steph Curry and the shots he takes. And, you know, I think it worked out to be 2.5 million shots a year if you take 500 shots a day over his lifetime, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think you take 2.5 million practice shots, your shot's going to be pretty darn good. So if you're a businessman or you're a sales guy and you make 2.5 million calls over your career, do you think you're going to be great at closing? Yeah. Or if you're a marketer running ads, 2.5 million ads, do you think your ads are going to get better? Like, it's not rocket science, but it takes some consistent
kick in the can. Yeah.
So when you break it down like that, like, I don't know, it's not in the book, but I ran an Ironman last year, which is a miracle considering I couldn't walk around my block after my injuries happened. So like that was a crazy story. But same thing, I trained that way. I started off with a 1 mile walk to 1 mile run, and then gentle progressions over the course of 9 months.
I think like what you're explaining right now is so critical because most people think that in order to make a monumental change, it takes a monumental effort. And I think the truth is it just takes consistent effort for a long period of time. It's not front loaded. And we often think, oh my God, if I'm going to lose all of this weight or make this giant change or start this business, like I'm going to have to do all of these things. And the answer is yes, but you just have to chunk it down and do in our world in business, we use the terms lead measure and lag measure. So a lead measure is something that you can control. And a lag measure is a result, right? So you could control 100 pucks a day. You could control left, right, bottom, top, etc. You couldn't control what your shooting percentage was in the game. But by controlling your lead measures and shooting those 100 pucks, the lag measure took care of itself. And then you analyze the data, and then you did it again and again. And so I think, when I first got started as an entrepreneur, I genuinely had no idea what to do or where to go or how to make it happen. And so my model of success was what I learned playing basketball. It was like, well, if I want to get good at basketball, I need to shoot 100 form shots a day, just like 100 pucks. Okay. Well, in business, what's those 100 shots a day? I don't know. Okay, well, let me just read as much as I can. Let me buy books and conferences and training courses and hire people to teach me what I don't know, because I don't even know what I don't know. But I know if I know what to do, I'll fucking do it. And I'll just consistent action over time will get me there.
Awareness, just having an awareness about your blind spots, an awareness about what you're trying to do and a target, that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Like clarity, action. And here's the thing, okay? And I did a speech the other day for this tech company, and I I got up there. And I didn't mean to do this, but I kind of ripped him a new one. And I go, how many of you have bought software before? Because a bunch of people just bought all the software from this guy that was on stage before me.
Yeah.
And like the whole audience puts up their hand. And I go, how many of you have maximized the software that you have? It's like the courses we buy, right?
Yeah.
And like 3 people out of like 100 put up their hand. And I said, so what makes you think that software you just bought now is the difference maker? Because you've already bought other software that didn't do anything for you. I go, if your head's not right, if your actions aren't right, if your energy isn't there, it won't happen. Sorry. And the whole audience is like shocked. I see the people who hired me like in the back. And I go, don't worry, I'll get there. But energy is everything. Okay. Now you say it doesn't have to be this massive amounts of energy. You say consistent energy over time. I agree with that 1,000%. But it's going to take you different qualities and different types of energy to move the needle.
Yes.
You've been doing the same thing forever and it's not moving. Something has to come and disrupt to bring in a different source or amount of energy, right? So then I like to look at it like, you've got this opportunity. If I go in with energy poor, I can only, this is my vibration. I can only see opportunity that's here. Energy neutral, a little higher, I can see opportunity that's here. I can't see what's up here. I'm not vibrating that high.
Yeah.
If I'm energy rich, I can see a little bit higher and, oh, there's another opportunity. This is a connection I should make. This is somewhere where I should go. But if you can harness the energy and use it to get to super rich, and you can take a look around and go, whoa, there's opportunity all over the place. Which one do I want to take? And which one's aligned authentically with me and who I am? Then you're onto something. And then you start to tune into that frequency and you're like, whoa. But if you're hungover, if you're dragging ass, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're eating poor food, you know it. I've done it. I've ate Thanksgiving meal and I'm having fun with my family, and all of a sudden, like, I'm conking out on the couch, and I'm a waste of skin for the entire day. I'm barely watching the football game, and I'm like, man, I just blew a day. New Year's Eve, everyone goes and gets shit-faced, pardon my language, and it takes me 2 or 3 days to recover.
Yeah.
I haven't drank at New Year's the last 3 or 4 years.
Amazing.
And I'm like, why would I start a new year behind?
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead of all the other people. You know how many players were better than me in the NHL? Like on the way to the NHL? Almost everybody. I was probably the worst player. But I made it and those other guys didn't because I consistently showed up. I consistently worked at it. Some got lazy, some got cocky, some couldn't handle the mind fuck that it is to go and do this hard thing when everybody's like, think about it. At the time when I was playing, 700 people in the entire world get to do that job.
Yeah.
700 out of 7 billion at the time, or 8 billion. That your odds aren't super great, right? I don't know what the math is on that. But how did I do it? I come from a coal mining town with a family without a lot of money. I worked a paper route since I was 9, cutting lawns. I built this guy. And then I had to rebuild him after everything else broke again. I was so crippled. I was so messed up. I couldn't function. So I slowly had to rebuild this guy. So I don't care where anybody is at this time in your circumstances. That does not equal your reality. It does not equal your future because I'm proof. You're proof. But it wasn't easy. And there are times where I just was literally at my wit's end and I'm like, man, something's got to break here or else I'm going to break.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, have faith, man. You got to know that this is happening for you. And then years later, when I'm coaching somebody or when I'm on stage or something happens, I download something and something comes out of me from an experience that I had. And I know the answer that I don't know how I know the answer, but I know the answer. Same thing with you. It's because it's in you. It's part of you. It's the fabric of your life. I'm proud of this, man. The reason why I started crying at the start of this interview is I'm proud of this dude I built. And I built him twice. I've reinvented myself. Going back to my dad, he's like, my body, I was the skinniest boy ever. I always played with kids that were 2 years older than me because I worked on my skills. I got, caught up to them so I could play with them. But I was so skinny. These kids are trying to rip my head off. My whole career, people are trying to like hit me and fight me, and I was not a physical player. I didn't get in my first fight on the ice until I was 16 and I had to. Got my nose smashed all over my face. I fought the toughest guy in the league trying to protect my teammate. But after I got my ass handed to me, I fought the toughest guy in the league, and I'm like, wow, that actually wasn't that bad. right? And then you start thinking, wow, if I fought the toughest guy in the league, anybody else that's coming to challenge me, I'll fight them because they can't be as tough as this guy. And I can't get beat up as bad as I got beat up.
Yeah.
And I started like killing guys. And I didn't know how to fight, but I was tall and skinny, right? And same thing, I worked out in the gym. I found the biggest, strongest guy on the team, and I would work out with him. I'm away from home at 16. I got $2.25 poutine. Poutine's this fries and gravy and cheese. I didn't want to bother my family for money. I had like $275 I saved up working at McDonald's, and I moved away at 16. I'm living with a billet family. They had 2 babies. They didn't know how to feed me. So I would go down and sneak poutine for $2.25 and then go to the gym. I would eat protein shakes, all this stuff. And I was 6'3", 160 pounds maybe.
Jeez.
And I was just training like a savage. I'm the last guy in the gym. Nothing's happening to my body. Nothing happened at all. Okay? Fast forward, I had mono on my draft year. I'm 17 years old. I go down to 135 or 140 pounds at 6'3". My throat was closed. I couldn't eat. My spleen was enlarged. I had to stop my season. It's my draft year. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Right? I'm 17. And I end up getting back at the end of the year, and I play a few games in playoffs, and I play really well, and then I keep training. Well, the draft is coming up. We got central scouting, which is like the combine. And I just keep training after the season. All the other guys took time off. They went and relaxed. The season's over. And I missed a lot of the season. So I'm like just in the gym. I go down to the combine or the central scouting testing. And this skinny little kid who could not put on weight, could not gain weight, I just smash everybody. I finished first in the world in fitness testing. Even though I wasn't like bulky, I was like strong and agile and all those things. And that helped me get drafted into the second round, 42nd overall in the world. But the Vancouver Canucks who drafted me said one of the things that made us trade up to get you was your fitness level. Like, we can't teach that. You'll be ready every game. You take care of your body. You take care of your health. We can teach you how to play hockey. We can't teach your size. We can't teach your strength. We can't teach your endurance. You've already built that. So that was part of the reason why I got drafted higher. Nobody really knows that story. My point is, I ended up playing in the league at 220 pounds to 228 pounds, like ripped, like 6% body fat, cut, all natural, never done anything. But nothing happened for years when I was lifting. Nothing. I could not gain weight. I could not gain muscle. And all of a sudden something clicked, and it's like the tipping point. And it's just like, poof. And I came to camp one year, and everyone's like, dude, what did you take? Are you on steroids or something? I'm like, no, never. I took creatine. That was the only thing I ever took. And I literally could not believe that I was the same boy that was the scrawniest, ribs and nuts is all you saw when you saw me.
Where does that, the work ethic, right? Mm-hmm. And B, the ability to stay at it when it seems like nothing is happening for you. Where does that come from?
Yeah, the work ethic came from my dad. He worked in the coal mines. He would work the night shift, and then he'd come home and go coach hockey practice, and then he'd be the bus driver. He'd be the team manager, and he'd be the coach of the team. And he could stretch a dollar farther than any man that I ever met in my life. But he would work his ass off, and he'd sleep. He goes, sleep when we're dead. Like, let's just go. Let's just crank it out. And we would do amazing things all the time. Like, I'd say, I wonder if I can swim across that lake. And he's like, well, there's only one way to find out. And like, I'm sitting in board shorts and like.
I'm on that page. I want to read this story because it's crazy to me. So you basically, you're talking about your dad and how, he was the first person or the sixth person to paraglide or whatever, right? The license, all the things. Yeah. And then you say one summer after I'd been in the NHL for a couple of years, we went all out. We all went out to the lake like old times, sitting on the shore together, looking over the water. I said, how far do you think it is to the other side of the island? Your dad's like, I don't know. Basically, he tells you, you're like, well, let's find out, right? And you just get up and you walk into the water.
Yeah.
And you start swimming.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens next?
Well, I'm not a great swimmer, and at that time I was probably 200 pounds. My legs are super heavy. I don't have good form. My legs are sinking. I could breaststroke pretty good, and I try freestyle, and then when I get tired, I go on my back. But my dad just walks up casually, grabs a canoe, and he just starts like paddling beside me. We don't really talk, okay? Like it was such a weird thing. It's like me and you talking, and I'm like, wonder how far across the lake. You're like, only one way to find out, and I don't even say anything. I just start walking. And he just walks up and grabs a canoe and comes. And that's kind of how he was with my whole life. He was right beside me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss him. But what a great role model. And sometimes just having somebody beside you, supporting you, no matter what. Yeah. If I didn't make it, he'd still love me. But I made it. And the funniest thing is, I get across the other side, and this takes like a couple hours, okay? And I'm floating. Sometimes I got to catch my breath. And then, like, we don't really talk. He's like, you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I keep going. I finally get to the other side. My feet touch the other side. And I turn around to swim back. And as soon as I start to swim back, I feel a current kind of helping me for a little bit. And I go, Dad, I've been swimming up in the up current the whole time. He goes, yeah, I kind of figured that, but I didn't really want to, like, stress you out. And he goes, you know what? You didn't say anything about swimming back. He goes, get in the boat. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I get in the boat, and he's like, that was crazy. Good job. I'm like, thanks. Like, that was it. Like, that was me and my dad.
Dude, I read this story, and honestly, I got so emotional. Mm. And you were like, he never told me I couldn't do anything. He never told me to stop, never told me to change course. He just stayed beside me and let me know that he was there and that he believed in me. Mm. It's crazy because, like, that hits me so deep because I had the exact opposite. Mm. My dad told me everything I couldn't do and how I was a worthless piece of shit over and over and over again. Yeah. And you know what the best part about this is the greatest gift I think you had was your father. Mm-hmm. And I think my father was my greatest gift. Mm. Yeah. Because they both instilled us the exact same lesson. Yeah. They just went about it a different way. Yeah. It's fucking beautiful, bro.
Yeah. And I would say I'm sorry that you didn't have that support, but I also feel like that was a lot of your fuel. That was all your fuel.
100%. And I think it's like your experience with your dad that fuels you to serve. Yeah. And it's my experience with my dad that fuels me to serve because I didn't have it. Yeah. You have to do it because you did, and I have to do it because I didn't. Mm. And it's like, regardless of what your circumstance is, you get to fucking choose how you show up, how you live, how you serve.
You've heard these stories about the twin brothers who go through the same experience, and one goes off the deep end and his life's trash because this happened to us, and the other brother goes on to success because this happened to us. Yeah. It's your perspective. It's one of the greatest things I learned from one of our friends, Donnie Epstein, is everything is perspective. So at the beginning, I mentioned that my injuries were my greatest gift ever to me. People are like, how could you say that? The old me, when I was going through it, I thought I was being punished, and I thought, why is this happening to me? Why me? I could go play in the NHL and make a couple $1 million a year and just like carry on, and life's good. I could retire, I could go golf, whatever. And God's like, no, man, that's not your plan. I got a different plan, and I gave you hockey to give you a soapbox to preach from or to speak from, but your real mission is over here. And this is the real impact. This is a jump starter. It gives you a little bit of lead on other people, but this is like your real mission. So then, for example, I started doing these free things during COVID where I was helping people online, and we had 25,000 people come through our challenges and our free stuff, and many of them became clients. But there were probably 20-something thousand that never became clients, but I blessed them. I was doing 7-day challenges. I blessed them for 7 days. I still get emails today. I still get text messages from people. Man, your stuff changed my life. I'm sorry I couldn't afford it back then, but I'd like to do something with you now. That was years ago, bro. And it had nothing to do with me making money. It had nothing to do with, I was literally just serving because I was listening. It's like, what are you going to do to help all those other people? You work with pro athletes, you work with famous people, you work with rich people. But like, we're going through COVID now. People are melting down. People are losing their jobs, everything. And what are you doing for them? It was almost like I was selfish. I'm like, I don't even know how I would do it. Like, yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You got the resources. You got the resourcefulness. I started doing these challenges before I did day one, and we called it the Get Your Shit Together Challenge, because I asked all my clients, I said, why did you hire me? And they're like, because I needed to get my shit together. And I felt like you helped me get their shit together. So I love the name. So I made the Get Your Shit Together Challenge, and everyone reacted to it. It was huge. I ran $2,000 in ad spend. I think we made like $27,000 by accident. I wasn't going to sell anything at the end. I was just helping people. And at the end, people were like, hey, let's keep going. Like, oh, okay, let's start some mastermind groups. Here's one of my programs. And I just filmed what I would do with my high level clients, and I just gave it to them for a few $100. And like, it's whatever, 2,000 ad spend, $27,000, $25,000 profit. That's a pretty good return. So I'm like, why don't we just keep doing this? And then Facebook didn't like the SH exclamation mark T, so we had to change it. And I changed it to the Get Your Life Together Challenge, which once again, it's not calling in my ideal client avatar, because most people that are getting their shit together or getting their life together don't have any money. But I'm like, that's okay. And I served them without expecting anything back.
Yeah.
And magic happens when you do the free thing and you give to people in a way that you're not expecting anything back, but it's authentic and real. That creates massive loyalty, massive loyalty. And same thing with you guys, with your brand, when you were doing your Facebook groups and those things we were talking before we started filming, and I was watching you do it, and I could see the engagement and how beautiful it was, and it was real, and it was authentic, and people were like, hey, tuning in, like, hey, tuning in to see you again. I think you guys were doing barbecues and stuff like that, right?
100%.
But, we were even talking like, when business starts to grow and expand and we're going so fast, sometimes we forget, and we don't do it on purpose, but we almost don't have the resourcefulness to like be everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
But for all the listeners who are in business or just fans of the show, when you show up and serve without expecting anything back, magic happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain it, but the more that I do it, the more money I make, and the more I feel like I'm actually living a purpose now. And that's getting back to the beginning, why that's the greatest blessing, is God put me over here. He's like, hey, you got more experiences. You have every color of the rainbow of experiences, contrast. I've got the highest highs. We've got the darkest darks. And I'm so grateful for that, because I can teach anywhere along there. Anywhere along there, I feel completely comfortable. I wouldn't have had that if I went from the NHL to coaching. I'd be like, hey, be positive. Let's go. Let's get to work.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't understand. I didn't have compassion for people. I didn't have patience. Being messed up and having nobody to talk to and feel like you're alone, that gives you time to think a lot about like how you treat people and how people treat you. Everybody loves you when you're the NHL guy and you're making millions of dollars and all that, but then when you aren't, who's still there? How many people reached out to me and checked in on me to see if I was doing okay? When I wrote the book, people had no idea that I went through that, because I went dark. I didn't talk to anybody for years.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed. I don't want to see them to see me or my body or how messed up I was. I couldn't even communicate, Anthony, and it's terrifying. So for anybody listening that's going through stuff, know that it's not going to last forever, and it's actually like gonna make you stronger eventually, for sure.
You've obviously had many defining moments throughout, whether it's like getting drafted, moving away for the first time, the first injury, the first concussion, the last concussion, the thoughts of suicide. As you think back through those experiences, what moments do you think defined you the most?
It's a great question. I actually I was just trying to think about what I could give back to people on one of my trainings, and I drew my life like a stock market graph.
Yeah.
And I was young, and then a couple of weird things happened when I was a kid, and then I went up again, and then I moved away from home, and I got homesick, and I wanted to come home, and then that was a tipping point, okay? My mom says, well, you can come home. I was 16. My whole team was almost 20. Like, we had a lot of older players in this league that I was in. I didn't make the team that I wanted. I had to go down to this lower level. And they weren't making it easy on me. They didn't want to give up their ice time. It's their last year. It's their last year of junior. They want to light it up before they're done. They're not going anywhere, most of them. So here's a 16-year-old kid. You think they want to share time with me? No, they're going to and I had a couple guys that kind of would stick up for me a little bit. But I went from being the big fish in the small pond with parents who were honest and didn't lie and all that to like savage, like I'm like, this is what the real world's like. Like I was protected in my little bubble, and I go out and these guys are assholes. They're like liars. They're doing things to mess me up. They're messing, you know what I mean? Like bullying me a little bit. And I couldn't believe people would like be like that, because that's not how I am. But it kind of started to create this like strength in me where I'm like, okay, well, I can't just sit here and keep taking this. Like I got to fight back. And that day when my mom said, you can still come home, your bed's here, we miss you, your brother misses you, your sister misses you, all your friends are still here, but I think you're going to regret it.
Wow.
And wouldn't it be bad if you regretted that for the rest of your life? Because just like one of my friends came back because he couldn't handle it being away, he's a PE teacher now. Like we were equal. So if I would have made the choice to go home, my life would be completely different. But it's almost like the tipping point almost on every one of these stories is it's so hard, I don't think I can do it again. Like it takes it going that far, and it's like a test. You want this? You want it all the way, or you're just gonna like bail right when you're at the end? And when I buckle down and I commit and I create like a covenant with myself, a promise that I will not stop, I will be the hardest working player. I don't care how many guys bully me. I don't care that the coach hates me. I don't care that I don't get ice time. I don't care that I got to go fight. I don't care what I got to do, but I'm gonna like win. Something magical happens and it like opens up.
Yeah.
And I get past that level. It's like a video game and you got to beat the dragon.
Yeah.
But how many times you can't figure it out, and you're like, man, like I'm beating my head against the wall. I can't figure this out. And it's almost like you got to like look yourself in the mirror and go, fuck it. I'm all in. I don't care how long, how hard, what I got to do. I'm in. I'm going to outlast the negativity and the darkness that's trying to stop me, those evil forces. And they can go pick on Sally and Joe and Frank who aren't all in. It'll stop them, but it's going to let me go because I'll fight till I die. Like you have to have this level of like all in or nothing mentality to go to the next level. That's what it takes. And it's like this happened over and over and over again. When I had the mono and my body was destroyed and I couldn't play the whole season. It's my draft year. All the scouts are looking at all my other teammates and they're all getting rid up in the paper. Like nobody looked at Dave Scatchard. Like how do I freaking override this? Well, at least I show up at the combine in sick shape and I blow people's socks off. And if I can get a few games in playoffs and score some goals and fight and hit and somebody will notice me, right? I wasn't even rated at the start of the year in the draft. Nobody knew who Dave Scatchard was. At Christmas, I had a rating of 168 before I got sick, and I didn't play most of the year. And then I went 42nd overall in the world. Like, think about that. Only 41 guys went ahead of me out of the whole world. And I barely played. I played like 40 games or something out of 70. How does that happen? Because I went like, fuck it. My legs are going to fall off. I'm going to be coughing up blood. I don't care. I'm going to train. I was doing sprints. I was lifting. I was like 2-3 times a day, just obsessed. And I think that the people that I know that are successful and people that I coach that are successful, I can look them in the eye and I know they're winning. Okay, I'll do it. I'll tell them something outrageous just to test them. Hey, I think we got to do this. Wow. All right, I'm in. Other people are like, hey, listen, I don't know how this is going to work. I got kids, I got this, I got that. Well, listen, we all do.
Yeah.
Get up earlier. Stay later. Be efficient. Show up with so much energy that you produce massive results in your workflow right away. If I show up half-assed and I get half, we've each had days like this. We talked about this. We went for lunch the other day, and I was in a little bit of a rut. I just saw that you were in a little bit of a rut. And for me, if my energy isn't right and I'm showing up and I'm kind of not sure which way I'm going, I'm kind of really not sure what I'm trying to do here, it's the worst feeling ever. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't happen often because I'm really good at managing my energy and my efficiency. But when it does, it's like I got to slap myself in the face and go, bro, what are we doing here? Right? And I think you do the same thing. What am I doing here? All right, well, this energy is not working. So let's go get more energy and make it happen, right? And align. It's sometimes for me, it's alignment. Something's out of alignment. That's why it's not quite working. And I slip into alignment. It's like a jet stream. It's like swimming downhill in the downstream in the river instead of upstream.
Yeah.
Right? Do you feel the same way?
100%. I was on a call yesterday and they said, your frequency is what you frequently see. And that speaks to that energy level you were talking about earlier. It's like the frequency or the energy that you show up with. One of the things I know for sure in my life, and it fucked me a lot when I was younger, is when I would get tired or a little bit beat up or just discouraged, that lower energy would lead to very limiting thoughts. And in that moment, I would believe those limiting thoughts, and then that would reinforce the fact that I wasn't good enough to do this or that or the other. And it wasn't until I got to a place much later in life, honestly, really recently in the last couple of years, where I had so much results in my life that when those limiting beliefs came up, I was like, I know this is bullshit, but why is this coming up now? And then I was able to observe it a little bit from a different perspective. And I realized, holy fuck, I only feel this way when I'm super tired, when my body, like maybe I just had an injury or a crazy workout, or I didn't sleep well the last week. And
So true.
And so now I'm like, anytime I have those severe thoughts of lack or limitation, I think about it, I feel it. And then as soon as I can catch it, I'm like, oh, I'm just tired. Like there's no reason for me to believe this bullshit. Let me just get some extra sleep. Let me do what I need to do. Let me do the things that I know that pull me out. So I think you're 100% spot on.
Well, and you nailed it. And think about this for all the listeners. Like, when do your best fights with your significant other happen? They happen at night, right? Because everybody's low energy. They don't happen in the morning. You don't wake up starting to scrap and argue with each other, right? When do people like usually drink or dip into like substance abuse or an addiction? It's usually in the evening.
They fuck off the diet.
When the energy level's starting to dip, we don't like that feeling, so we want a quick hit to pop us back up into a higher energy state, which it usually happens for a second. And then it starts to dip again.
It's such an amazing point. If anybody that's listening, like if you have patterns of behavior that you don't like, next time you engage in that pattern, notice where you're at in the time of the day and in your energy, right? If you've slept like shit, chances are you're probably going to do things that are out of alignment of what you want to accomplish. I know for myself, the time where I indulge the most, whether it's like binge watching TV, like, so I don't, like you, I don't drink. I've never drank, smoked, done anything because of my experience with my dad. So what are my vices? Like, oh, I like to watch a good show. Maybe I eat a little too much dessert from time to time. Like, being a little bit frivolous with my time. And the only time I do that is when I'm really tired or I'm just exhausted and
it's
I
like
want
your
a little bit of a
coming
disconnect.
down, and then you're like, all right, bring it in. Right.
And the opposite of that is like, so get up early, go through my morning routine, get my work done. I hate the fucking ice bath, but I do it every day to prove to myself that I can like do whatever I want, mental discipline, keep accountability with myself. I get out of that thing and I feel like I can run through a wall. And it has nothing to do with the ice bath or any of the things that I'm doing. It's 100% because I'm honoring the word that I have with myself. And I'm doing the things that I know I need to do.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that Tom Brady post the other day, but it was powerful. And he just said, like, fuck your feelings and fuck that you're not feeling good. And he just went off, and I was like super impressed because like I never really heard him speak like that frankly. And like, for example, the day that I ran my Ironman, it's 140 miles. I'd never done any of those things. I was terrified. Actually, this is a good story. I'm gonna add a little piece in here that I think is amazing advice. But I look at my watch, my Garmin, and it says training readiness, 22 out of 100, and I got to go run a 140-mile race. So that doesn't mess with your head. And I didn't sleep because I was like scared, And you got to be there early, and all these things. What a crazy experience! I could go for an hour on this, but I'll get to the kind of one of the best lessons that I got. And I called one of my friends, mentors, Donnie Epstein. I go, Donnie, I've been having a problem with my Achilles tendon from training. I think I tore it a little bit. I'm nervous that I can do 140 miles on this thing. Do you have any words of advice? I got this race in a couple days. And he goes, who are you doing this for? You go, well, I want to see what I'm made of. I want to push myself to my limits. I've never done anything like this. I'm 236 pounds running an Ironman. Like, it's a pretty big guy. I want to show my kids what's possible. And I stood on stage at one of my events, and I told the audience I was going to do an Ironman to show them that anything's possible. And that was what kind of kept me training when I was training. Is like I wouldn't want to train, and Arizona's hot, so I'd go do runs at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's just too hot during the day, and running 12 miles by myself in the dark with a headlamp on, and nobody cares. But there were times I thought about letting people down that were believing in me, or me prophesizing that anything's possible if you truly commit your everything to. And I didn't want to let him down, so I would go for the run. I would do the hard things. And I called Donnie, and Donnie goes, if you're doing it for you and for your kids and for your coaching people, that's not enough. You're going to get hurt. You won't complete the race. And I'm like, thanks for the vote of confidence. And he said, you need to make it so big that it's impossible for you to do it by yourself. You're going to need help from the organizing intelligence of the universe and God. So why don't you make it that you're running this race, because our world's messed up right now. So you need to blaze a new pathway for humanity and create a path for other people to follow in your wake. So he goes, it's not about Dave running the race. You're running for humanity. You're blazing a pathway for humanity and creating a place for others to follow. And it sounds hokey, but the more that I started to think about it, I'm like, whoa, what if this race was for that? What if this whole race, what if me completing this race means that we win against all this weird stuff that's going on in our world? And what if these 2,000 volunteers are there to support me? What if I do this for my dad and in heaven and my kids? And what if I could be an inspiration to people that don't even know me? And what if I could tell stories from stages and on podcasts for the rest of my life about this crazy race that I had no business being in? And what if I could get through it having a blast, being in a completely blissful state, high-fiving people, literally being a radiant essence of light and love, and enjoy every second of it and not get hurt? And what if I can complete it in under 17 hours, because the cutoff was like 17:30 or something? And I finished the race in 12 hours and 50 minutes.
Is that nonstop? 12 hours nonstop?
Yeah.
Shit, bro.
And 140 miles. I had to swim half the race on my back, backstroking, because I showed up an hour early, and all my corral of my hour and 10-minute swimmers was full. Like, it was like this wide, so that I couldn't like go and jump in with everybody's just squashed together. Everyone's ready to go for the race, like way before the race. So I'm putting on my wetsuit and I'm like walking over, and I'm like, where's my guy? My guys are way up there. And I had to go back with the slower group. So I start swimming, and my goggles get kicked off. I'm in Tempe Town Lake. You can't even see your hands in front of your face. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long 2.6 mile swim. And I'm not a great swimmer. I worked on it all year, but like, I'm huge. My legs are like anchors. But I worked on my technique and form. So I ended up flipping over on my back and backstroking, and I was actually going the same speed as the hour and 30, 40-minute swimmers backstroking, and I didn't kick my legs. I literally was just like cruising. I'm like, whoa, what if I did like the whole race like this? So I'm talking to my dad. I'm imagining myself swimming across that lake when I was younger.
Yeah.
And my dad's in heaven. I'm seeing planes go by. I go under the bridge in Tempe, and people are taking photographs. I'm the only guy upside down. I'm waving to them. I'm doing snow angels in the water. I get out of the water. My coach can't believe, like, I finished it in a little under an hour and a half. And she's like, wow, you're flying. And I didn't even flip over to my stomach until about 3/4 of the way when everyone got out of my way. It was really tight. There was tons of racers at that time level, and I just couldn't get by anybody. It was really narrow. So sometimes you got to go backstroke. You got to plan. You're going to front stroke. You're going to get in an hour and 10. No. Sometimes you're going to get kicked in the face. Sometimes your goggles are going to fall off. Sometimes you're like, I'm not doing this race. I'm not an Iron Man.
Yeah.
But then you're like, no, I'm in this, and I'm blazing a pathway for humanity. I get on my bike. I kill the bike, 112 miles. I did it I was averaging like 20 miles an hour, which is pretty good because we had 25-mile-an-hour headwinds heading out. And I'm sitting there, and the whole time I'm like, I'm blazing a new pathway for humanity. I'm high-fiving everyone and imagining this like wake behind me that's just like clearing the way for everyone else. I finished that race, and I could have kept going. And the best part of the story is there's like literally thousands of friends and family cheering everybody when you're running down the last mile, and there's this red carpet. And I had no idea where my family was at this moment. And I had friends in town and stuff, people cheer me on. And I'm running down this side, and something tells me to run to the other side. So I was high-fiving all the crowd this way, and I run over perfectly. Time, all my family's standing along the side. I go, bam, 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 bam. Give like 10 high fives. And then I hear them announcing my name and say I played in the NHL, and like the crowd's going crazy. And then at the very end, I see my son, he was 12 at the time, and I see his little face, and he's up on the fence, and he's kind of separated from the rest of my family. And he's just got this crazy smile on his face. He's just like, yeah, Dad. And I got tears coming across my eyes, and I get across the finish line, and I give her a pumpernickel, and I'm like, oh, that was absolutely a blessing. That whole time, I had no pain. I was not uncomfortable. I hired a coach to help advise me on some nutritional stuff and training and all that. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And for anybody who hasn't done something that you think is kind of impossible, there's this elation that you get where your capacity just, I kept my word. I kept my word. I stood on stage at my next event the next year, and I just played highlights. And I go, do you guys remember when I told you I'm going to do this? I never ran a full marathon before in my life, even in training. I never swam 2.6 miles in my life, and I never biked 112 miles in my life. And I'm standing in front of you today to show you it's all possible. And I did it with baby steps. I did it with consistency and a belief and a target. That's it. It's like, you don't have to overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes life's like an Ironman or a marathon.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that story is the what is usually the easy part of the equation. And when I think about how do you create something, right? I have just a very simple framework that I think about in my life. What do I want? And what does success look like, or what is the outcome? But then why the fuck do I want it?
Yeah.
You know, and if I can get really clear on why, like you had a pretty good why, and you were like, okay, I think I'm going to do it because I said this and because I said this. And then you said, okay, who do I need to be in order to complete this? And then you started training and you started making it happen.
But my why went from pretty good to extraordinary.
Yes.
And it was so big. My goal was so big, there'd be no way that Dave Scatchard could do that. So I wasn't getting the energy for Dave Scatchard. I was getting the energy for the millions of people that would eventually hear these stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we make it bigger than us, we get blessed with the energy to make it happen, because it's not giving Anthony this much energy because it's for Anthony. It's giving you this much energy because it's for everyone.
It's much greater.
Right? And it's a different way of thinking. So it's beautiful to really, truly believe. Like there's this faith piece that comes in that you just know. You don't really know how it's going to happen, but you know that when you go for it, like you make things move.
Yeah.
And you will get there. It might take you longer. It might not be the way that you thought it was going to happen, but like I believe that's why I love hanging out with you and other successful people. Like all my NHL guys, all these guys, like when I sit with them, like Steve Nash has become a good friend of mine lately. Like I sit with him and I'm just like, man, like tell me all that stuff that nobody knows. And they start telling me and I'm like, I never heard that story before.
Yeah.
And people see this beautiful finished product that's so professional, but they don't see Steph Curry's 2.5 million shots.
Yep.
They don't see Dave's hundreds of thousands of shots over my lifetime. But they see my nice house, they see my nice things. He's so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I'm lucky and blessed, but like that's another thing too. If you truly believe that the result will be worth it, my result will overpower the pain and the struggle to get there. If I can visualize it that way, I'll do it. This is going to suck. This is going to be hard. This is probably going to be the hardest thing that I ever do in my entire life. But when I get it, it's going to be so worth it.
Yeah.
And that was the NHL. That was the Ironman. That was all these things. Yeah. And then it lets you override it. This little doubt thing. You're like, well, fuck, it's going to be worth it. I'm in. Like whatever. I don't care what it takes.
Yeah.
And right, like it's just a beautiful thing when you like you go all in, I guess. That's what it feels like to me. Like you're like, okay, I'm in for the long haul.
Yeah, I think there's a couple themes out of all of the stories that we've shared today, and it's you know what you want, you know why you want it, and then you get to work on building the who, right? But inevitably, on the journey of building the who you need to be to get there, the why has waned. The why even fractures at times, or the can I make it happen? The call to my mom, the call to Donnie, like, I don't know if I can figure this out. I don't know if I can do it again.
Yeah.
And then by surrounding yourself with people that have your best interest in mind and realigning or getting connected to the bigger vision again, right? That re-empowers the why. And now the why becomes so much bigger than the who or what it's going to take to get there. And I think oftentimes all of us in life on whatever journey, like you said something earlier and it made me think this, like I have this theory in life and oftentimes I just anticipate it's going to happen so that when it happens, it's like, okay, here we are. Anytime I say I want to do something big, I make a big proclamation, I set a big goal, what I tell myself is like, okay, the universe is now saying, okay, motherfucker, let's see how committed you are.
Yeah.
Let's see how hard and long and consistent you're going to be willing to work to make this happen. Because inevitably on that journey, you're going to come up against something that seems insurmountable at that time.
Correct.
And to your point, on the other side of that is where all the results are. That's where all the growth lives. And we have that moment. And I've had a few of them in my life where I'm like, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to rebuild? What am I going to do? And it's like, well, motherfucker, like you said, this is what you wanted. And what you want is on the other side. Like this is life or God testing you. Do you really have what it takes?
Yeah.
Are you really fucking man enough?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'll fucking die or figure it out trying. Like, I don't fucking care. I'm all in. Yeah. Let's make it happen. And it's those moments where I think so often when people get to those friction points where they think it's insurmountable, that's where they actually give up. But if they could just get reconnected with the why and dig that next layer deeper, all of the results are just a few feet away.
Can I share something with you? Because this is so cool. So I teach this, and this came to me. I was meditating one day, and this came to me, this image, okay? And it wouldn't leave my meditation. So I run and grab my whiteboard, and I start drawing out this thing that I saw in my meditation, okay? So what it was the bottom was this thing called the pit, okay? Then above that was this thing called the tunnel of hell, and then above that was this thing called existing or sleep, which I believe most of society sort of fits into. And then above that was this ladder called the champion's ladder. I made up this whole thing, and I can share it with your group if you want. And then I have this thing called awakened existing, and I added all-star because that was my brand. And I said, where are we on this journey, right? My business might be on the champion's ladder going to the top, but my relationship might not be, or my health, or whatever your thing is, right? So you can kind of self-identify all your stuff.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, on the champion's ladder, what came to me was the first resistance is resistance. The next one is the matrix, and then the next one is the last stand. So those are the three checkpoints that you have to go up the champion's ladder until you break through into awakened or all-star or whatever, right? Champion. So when I started doing this and showing clients, like it was almost like we could predict it. And I'm like, okay, you're trying to do this big thing and you just got kicked in the nuts. And it's like, get back down there. You're not a best-selling author. Where's my book? You're not a best-selling author, right? Get back down there. Who are you to write a book? Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I spent 5 months like typing, right? I'm like, no, it's supposed to come out. I just know it. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And then I get back on the ladder. I start climbing up and I, boom, get punched in the face. Get back down there. You're not a best-selling author. I know, but I'm going. So screw you. I get up there, boom, kick right in the nose. Down and fall off the ladder again. You're a hockey player. Get down there. You're not a $1 million coach. You're not a best-selling author. You're not a Iron Man. This happens every time. I can call it by name.
Yes.
Oh, that's resistance. That's matrix. This is the last stand. So most people give up after a couple of shots.
That shit.
And they go, oh, that's a sign. I'm not supposed to do it. I tried it and like this and God, it's not God. It's the dark and evil forces trying to stop you from being somebody that they got to deal with the rest of their life. Okay? So most people settle in existence, maybe the upper level, and they're like, oh, I'm going to try something. I'm going to maybe do something. Like they're kind of there, but it's upper neutral. It's like high neutral. But a few people dig in, and they see this ladder, and they go, okay, I know I'm going to take a couple shots on the way up. And I don't know what that last stand thing is. I haven't got there yet. But, like, I'm not moving home. I don't care how much bullying I get. I'm not quitting the race. I don't care if my watch says have 20 units of energy, right? I don't care if I'm not supposed to write a book. I'm doing it. And I don't care how long it takes. And I'm going to climb this ladder. I'm going to take as many shots as I got to take to get through this thing, because I know that the results in Champion and Awaken and Last Stand are joy, bliss, ecstasy, creativity, unbound energy, uncertainty. It's all these things that we don't really know because we don't really live there. But when you get a taste of it, you want it all the time. It's like winning a championship in sports. You just have to get back in there. And you know, if you start dipping out, you're like, fuck, what's going on? Right? That's when you and I have the conversation, bro, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And then we go, all right, let's go. Buckle up, let's go. I don't care how many shots I take. And you get to this point, and you take the shot of the resistance, you take the shot of the matrix, and you're like, okay, what's up here? What's up here? And the last stand. Right? And I think this, I might have got this from this book called, stick with me for 1 second. It was a short, small book, The War of Art.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? And anyways, it's called Turning Pro. I forget the name of the author, but it's a great little book. But he talks about this, the last stand. I don't know if he calls it something different, but it wants to end you. It wants to maim you, hurt you, disable you, stop you from being a force. Because if you get through, you're gonna be light fighting against the darkness. So it will test you to your absolute brink. And I bet you 99% of the people can't take it. It's that point we talked about earlier where it's so hard. You're like, man, I don't know. I just don't know how I'm gonna make it. Like I've spent all my money, I've done all the things, I've asked the girl, I've done the thing, and like none of it's worked. How? It's like, fuck, I don't know, but I'm going for it. I don't care if I get my head chopped off here, I'm going for it. And something magical happens where those dark forces, those things trying to stop you, look at you and go, kid's on a mission. We can sit here and fight him for the next 10 years, but he's eventually going to get there. Let him in. I'll go stop the other 2,000 people who aren't all in.
Yeah.
And you get in, and you're like, it's a different world. And everything is gold. Everything's champion. Everything's energy. Everything's like believable. It's faith. It's this unwavering faith. Where you just know, and you don't know how you know. That's when you get downloads. That's when you get these things that just like pop in your head, and it's like truth, and like you don't know how you know. I truly believe everyone has access to that. I actually believe we were born into that. And then the first time these things start to happen, kind of like jars us, and we start going down this ladder, and then you fall into existence with everybody else eventually.
Yeah.
But we all still feel this calling to like get back up to that spot. And I think our programming, our society, social media, the news, I think it's just making us where we're manageable because we're neutral. We're not a threat. Check this out. If you don't have crazy shit happening to you, it's probably because you're not a threat. You're not a threat to making any change in the world.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So you take it almost as a compliment when these big blasts come at you because you're like, whoa, I must be onto something because like that shouldn't have happened. But like, I think the upside of this thing is way bigger than that shot that I just took. So like, let's just go for it.
Yeah. One of the things I've come to believe is all of the fears, the doubts, the resistance, the challenges, those are just callings from our Creator to grow. It's like, I heard that the word desire means of the Father. And so if you have a desire, it represents what's possible for you. The ideas, the visions, the things that inspire you are meant for you.
Yeah.
And on that path, you're going to have these resistance points, these challenges, these struggles. And I think whether we win or not comes down to how we anticipate and manage those resistance points.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really true. Let me ask you a question, because I feel Like my calling is so strong, I can't turn it off. I can't go and chill. I'll go. I'll golf for a few days or whatever, but then like I feel
There's
like
something
I
inside
gotta
of
go
you.
back there.
Yeah.
And I'm always hungry.
Yeah.
I'm starving. I'm thirsty. And I asked one of my mentors about this, and he goes, it's because you're chosen. Till the day you die, you'll be thirsty and you'll be hungry because it needs you to be. Because you can make an impact.
Mm.
Now my question to you, because I actually haven't really thought about this till just now, but like, do you think everyone's called, or do you think a select few are called?
It's an interesting question. I would say everybody has the capacity or the potential to be.
Yeah.
I would like to live in a world and believe that everybody has the potential to answer the call. I think most people drowned out they drowned out the call by just the ways of the world.
I tend to agree. What was coming to me was I was thinking, what if all our callings are different?
Yes.
It's like we're soldiers. Some are commanders, some are all the other parts of the military.
100%.
But what if we're all light warriors and we're all called to different parts? I think we are all called, but I think we all have different missions.
Yes.
Some callings are stronger than others. Some people are lead singers and some people are in the background singing. You know what I mean?
And some people are fans, because without the fans, there's no
absolutely.
rock star.
There's always the pieces, and I believe we are all called. But I 1,000% agree with you that I think that through the masks, through the armor, you don't hear it. Like you don't really hear the calling.
Yeah.
And because it's so noisy, I don't think you hear the calling, especially when it's loud.
Yeah, I almost think about, when you're saying this, I had this visual of like climbing a mountain, right? And it's like, you can reach the top, and once you reach it, you have this amazing view. And once you have that new perspective, life isn't the same again. Yeah. But most people will actually never climb the mountain to actually see what the view is. I'll tell you a short story that changed things for me. Mm-hmm. Actually, this was a moment where I feel like there was a big shift for me. Black Friday 2022. So here at Live Bearded, we do a lot of product promotions and we have big sales days. So, we'll do $100,000, $150,000, $175,000 in a day up until this point.
Yep.
And so, being a competitive guy, I'm like, I wonder what we could do for Black Friday. And then I'm starting to think in my head, okay, maybe, could we get 200? Like we've never had $200,000 in a day. Yeah. Like that's more money than I used to be able to dream about making in a year.
Right.
Could I actually do that? I was like, well, could we get 225? Could we get 250? I was like, fuck. And I don't like to, one of the things I learned as a leader is I don't want to project onto my team. Mm-hmm. One time we had a really great sales day, mm-hmm. but it was actually less than what I thought we would do. And I shared it with them. And so people were disappointed, even though it was an amazing sales day. So as a leader, I was like, okay, I have to be mindful of like what expectations I set verbally, because that's going to determine kind of the frequency or the energy of how people judge it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't share my expectation, but I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, if we can do 200, that's great. If we could get 250, that would be like unbelievable. Like, I don't think that would even be possible, but let's see what happens. We do the hard work, we put in the energy, we launch, and at the end of Black Friday, we did $312,000.
Amazing.
And I was like, I was fucking over the moon. I was like, oh my God, like 312 in a day. That's so unbelievable. How the fuck did this happen? I wake up the next morning, I'm on my way to the gym, and I'm fucking just vibrating with energy. I'm like, I can't believe this is so amazing. I can't wait to high five everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then my brain goes, what if you turned your best day into your everyday? Fuck. Okay. So I pull out my calculator. I'm driving to the gym at 5 in the morning. I pull out my calculator. 312 times 365.
18 million or something?
$108 million.
Oh my God, I was way up. Yeah.
And I was like, I've always had a goal of building a $100 million brand.
Yeah.
I've never really said it out loud.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have that goal is I believe that I'm capable of adding $1 billion of value to a marketplace. Mm. And if I can add billions of dollars of value to people, then of course I should get paid 10% of that in exchange. And that 10% can take care of everybody in my sphere, my ecosystem, my company, etc. And I was like, holy fuck, I never believed that it was possible for me to build $100 million company. And then I was looking at the calculator and I was like, I just did 1 day of what I thought was impossible.
Yeah.
How fucking small have I been playing? And it just shattered my possibility. Now, granted, it was 1 day, but I know what the orders feel like. I know what the workflow feels like, the ticket load, the fulfillment, the advertising. Like, I have now a micro experience of the dream.
I don't mean to interrupt, but like every time that happens for a client, I pause and I go, let's build the recipe. What did that feel like?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? What did you do? Let's do it again, right? I just had a client have a huge win and I paused her and I said, what happened? And she had all these like things she didn't realize happened, and we built the recipe. And I literally had this page full of notes, and this is her just like transcribing like what her experience was. And I go, look, that's what you do every time. If you do this every time, you're setting yourself up with the vibration. It's the same thing that we talked about, right? Like that vibration of not seeing what's on this level because the vibration's too low. I do this thing during my on stage where I crouch down below the table and I go, this is my vibration. This is my reality. This is all that I can see. But if my vibration raises, on this table, there's a cup, there's water, there's a phone, like all these things I didn't even know were up here. It's the mountain.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you see that for the first time, you're like, wow. And then it gives you a different perspective and a different angle. So I love that story. And same thing, like you're a smart guy, you already have built your recipe, but like I would use that as my template where if I'm getting ready for a push or whatever, I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to think about how that vibration felt and like what everyone in the room was doing and how I showed up and what we did as a group.
Yeah.
And I would just,
dude, this is an amazing point because I've made this mistake for this experience and I want to share it because everybody should do it.
Yeah.
We all have wins in our life, wins, moments of ecstasy, moments of joy, etc.
Yes.
And oftentimes we live them in that moment and then we remind ourselves of them like I just did now, but ultimately we don't fully tap into the energetic experience that moment has for us.
Correct.
I think about it, it brings a smile to my face, I tell the story, but I don't necessarily call that morning, that frequency, that energy I had, the possibility that I felt in that moment. There was nothing. I was like, I'm fucking doing this. There's nothing that can stop me. I already did 1 day. I can do 365.
Bro, you got to give me, after this, I want to do an exercise with you.
Yeah. And then life happens.
Yeah.
And we get caught up.
Yeah.
And I forget about that energy and I keep moving forward. And then I start to like push and pull and struggle and waver and wane. It's like, no, motherfucker. Just look at what you already did, go back to that experience and pull it forward and just continue to do that until it is every fucking day.
Amen. So, no, this is so cool because it's like, here's what I believe to be true. When I'm working in groups, when I'm doing things from stage, when I have masterminds, the energy is flying through all of us in this room. It's flying through the camera right now because it's hitting people in their heart because it's like giving them the blueprint, right? God wants us to be abundant. He wants us to succeed. But when we go dark or we go shallow, we cut ourselves off from all that data, all that information. Well, we're giving you data for a winning blueprint. So this is an amazing tool that everybody should use that's listening to this right now. But I take my clients through a thing called their champion moment. And I get them to relive it, re-experience it, and we're documenting the entire thing. And they might have their eyes closed, they might be in it, they might be making the movements, they might be literally not realizing what I'm doing as a coach. But I'm sitting there and I'm making tons of notes, I'm filming them, I'm doing everything. And they get to have this incredible experience again, an emotional flood, where it fills their body with that energy and they can literally go back in time and connect to that.
Yeah.
Now, we create an avatar based off of that is $100 million Anthony. And then you go and every day you're checking in with that avatar and you're like, I'm actually not that right now. Haven't even realized that. Oh, wow, my posture. Oh, the way my physicality, my tonality, my pace, my energy, my sleep, my focus, my direction, my communication. And we're grabbing all of those nuggets from the $300,000 a day, and then you're lining it up, and you're able to look in the mirror and go, yeah, I'm right there, or no. So who's talking to me right now? Is this $50 million Anthony, or is this $100 million Anthony? And you go, no, it's not. And my clients start to self-identify, and they make a silly name for their less than avatar.
Their bitch voice.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, no, this is Dummy Dave or whatever, and they can flip it. And I go, well, what would $100 million Anthony do right now? He's like, he'd get to work, he'd do this, and you can call it out because you're like, your awareness is there.
Yeah,
and that's the beautiful thing. It's like a check-in point with yourself.
Yeah.
It's like I put it by my mirror, I put it by my office desk, I put it in my car. And I'm like, fuck, I can't avoid it. Like, hey, are you showing up right now or not? Here today, for example, I woke up the last 3 days, I'm taking care of my 3 kids. My wife's on a girls' trip, and I'm working, and I'm about to launch something really big. So I got to make sure everybody's off to school. I've got to make sure all my business. So I'm waking up at 3. I'm working till 6:30, and I'm doing like kid stuff and feeding everybody in the middle of it. I've done this for 3 days straight, okay? I know my energy is a little bit low. I jumped on my bike. I did a bike ride. I jumped the cold plunge before I came here. I went to get my teeth cleaned. I did dental cleaning. I come here. I'm showing up. I'm bringing it. But then after this, I'm going right to massage. I need to reload. I need to, because I know I've been burning it. And the RPMs have been high. And one deficit that I do, and I don't know if you do, but I push so hard. I help so many people. I give to everybody. My energy is radiating all the time. But my one weakness, I believe, my kryptonite, is that I don't charge enough, and I don't take the time to load myself up. Because when I'm loaded, I have more to give. But when I'm depleted, if this glass is empty and I'm trying to give to everybody and to myself, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
So my battery on my phone's at the end, and I'm trying to do big things with it and work all day with it, it's useless.
Yep.
So managing that energy, like, we keep coming back to it. Here's another point. If something in your life isn't working, it's energy related. Meaning, if your health is crap, my guess is that you haven't been spending a lot of your units of energy per day focused on your health category. If your relationship sucks, my guess is that your energy's been going towards business or towards health or whatever, but it hasn't really been focusing on the relationship. So whenever something's out of whack, I would readjust the amount and the quality and the type of energy that I'm focusing towards that category for a certain time until I get the plate spinning again, and then I can readjust. But I feel like it's this balancing act the whole time where you're trying to like manage all these plates, and it's tough. But when you're aware of it, you can go, oh man. And this is another good metaphor for people listening. It's like you've been driving around with the check engine light on your car, and it might be a kid that's been acting out. It might be your wife who's been complaining or giving you a hard time. It might be the business who's struggling with making money. But the thing is the engine light's on, and it's saying, pay attention, take me in for a tune-up. It might be a date night with your kid that just connects you guys again, and then the engine light goes off and everything's good again. The kid's good for a little while. The business. But some of us drive around with the engine light on all the time. We're ignoring it, and the car breaks down, right? Divorce, the relationship with the kid, the business drops, the health goes, you get a heart attack or something, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this happened. Well, bro, the engine light's been on for 8 months.
There's been a lot of signals along the path.
Right? But it's just slowing down to speed up to manage this field. We're essentially in an energy field. And you get to, if I gave you 100 units of energy today, how would you spend it?
Yeah.
Simple.
It's a great question. I think one thing I was going to say is the type of energy. Someone might be saying, well, I'm putting a lot of energy into it, but it's the wrong type of energy. So, dude, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some stories and the journey. If there was one final thought or one piece of advice or encouragement that you would leave us with today, what would that be?
I believe that when somebody dedicates and focuses their entire being, every action, every thought, all the energy towards a certain thing, they can create dramatic results in the big scheme of things relatively quickly because it takes on that importance. For example, if your wife and kids were in a burning building for a year and you had to do 100 million, you'd do 100 million. You'd figure out a way.
Yeah.
Right? And oftentimes we'll do something more for other people than we will for our own self. And sometimes we're ourselves in a burning building, but we keep ignoring it because we're trying to help everybody else. When, like I just gave you for that example, I'm taking time for myself today to recharge the battery because I got big things to do. And it might only be a couple-hour massage, but guess what? That can carry me a long way. As long as I'm aware and I'm fueling, anything is truly possible. I'm living example of that, and I've lived what feels like multiple lives. And I'm just, I think it's a magical world we live in, and that, you know, we're pretty lucky to be here, for sure.
Well, I'm blessed to call you a friend, and I think you're an epitome of what it means to take life into our own hands and design an experience that is worthy of us and is honoring God and the gifts that He's given us. I'm excited to continue to take this journey together. Where can people follow you at?
I'd say jumping on Instagram at Dave Scatchard or allstarcoaching.com. And, you know, I
definitely check out the book, The Comeback. It's an amazing story of Dave's personal journey through heaven and hell.
Yeah. The Comeback. It's on Amazon and also on my website. So I'll be happy to get you guys that. And if anybody heard this interview or there's anything related, I'd love to hear back. It's always interesting when you're in a small room and you're chatting, but then you get the feedback later, and it's like, wow, people really get it. And that's the goal, is to make the data and information coherent for everybody. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate you. I love what you're doing here. I just experienced your whole facility. It's incredible. Your team's amazing, and I'm excited for your future, man. I'm excited to see where you go with everything. So,
thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are still with us, thank you for taking this journey with us. I fully believe that the greatest gift we have is the gift of each other, and you've given us your time and attention today, and for that, both of us are grateful. Hope you have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you guys soon.